Welcome everyone. We will talk about business growth and sustainability in this presentation. The agenda is all about macroeconomic goals going forward, what is expected on the longer horizon of terms, macroeconomic and ecological sustainability as in the green initiative that has been taking place, the race between technology and resource depletions, climate change, economic growth and environment, and is there a validity between stabilization and sustainability? Are there any valid reason or the reasons are in contrast to one another? And thereby the concluding thoughts. So macroeconomic goals, looking forward, what we are looking at exactly out here is that remember, we are all human beings and we would love every one of us to lead a good, healthy living style. So, traditional macroeconomics has often narrow focus on stability, and probably the growth in gross domestic product is the only goal in mind. So that is what we are looking into. We are looking only at incremental growth over a period of time, but these are the traditional thoughts. Now, the changes in the condition of work, stresses imposed on families, development in social and financial infrastructure of economy are more often than not are ignored. So basically, these are the things that needs to be focused on your living standard, your living style, the comfort, the basic amenities which of life which are required. Is it available? Is it accessible to the general public? Now, these are the things that should be the major concern. But what has been looked into it, these are things are often overlooked in favor of a growth in GDP and stability. So we should be looking after the environmental degradation, growing inequality. When I say inequality, it's the gap between the rich and the poor. Is it widening or is it diminishing? Inadequacies in healthcare, childcare, and education. And obviously, yes, economic growth is not sufficient to improve human well-being. It is your thought process, it is your spiritualism, it is your well-being, it is your integrated effort with the ecology, the flora and the fauna that comes into it. So there are finite planetary limits might make unlimited gross domestic product growth unfathomable, infeasible, absolutely not possible. So let us look into the ecological sustainability and the microeconomic factors for it. So first and foremost thing is the global population, and we see a meteoritic rise in the growth of the population in the last century. In fact, last decade or last couple of decades, if we say so. I'll give you a sense of direction with the subsequent statement. In 1960, the global population of the Earth, our planet, was around 3 billion. And just 40 years, we have just doubled it out. In 2000, it is around 6 billion. And now we have reduced it by 25% in terms of years. In next 11 years, what we achieved in 40 years was doubling the population. In next 11 years, we have added 1 more billion to it. And this is unthinkable per se. Human population growth contributes to the increase in many environmental pressures. Yes, definitely, yes, there are pressures in sustaining the human population. The resources are getting depleted overnight. For example, food production, for example, land degradation. Land degradation have been misutilized. In fact, land, agricultural land, sustainable land have diminished because of the so much amount of waste that has been created. Talking about waste, we are looking at pollutions from fertilizer, from pesticide. Why fertilizer and pesticide? Because to drive the hunger out of this 7 billion people, we need to farm more. We need to increase the productivity of the farm, and that can only be achieved with the help of a fertilizer or administration of the pesticide. Overtaxing of the water supplies, major environmental issues. Major thing was world population. Now let us go into the resource depletion. World fisheries are in decline due to overfishing. Fish at one point of time it was thought is unlimited resources, but the rampant amount of fishing that people are doing of late, in fact, something which was renewable source of energy, a source of growth, has come into a finite thing. This is basically because of overfishing. Tropical forests are lost at a much faster rate. a billion people in countries where usable water is absolutely scarce. So people don't have access to potable water. This is a major concern. Mind you, a clean, healthy drinking water is a must to lead a stress-free life. Stocks of mineral resources have been depleted. Definitely, yes. Global production of oil will peak within the next few decades, probably in 2030s, 40s. It should be peaking out, and thereafter we should be going down the graph as far as oil production is concerned. Now, what is to be done? We are looking into current dependencies of fossil fuels could challenge potentials for industrialized countries to maintain their living standards and for developing countries to reduce poverty per se. Major environmental issues are pollution and waste. Apart from global population, apart from resource depletion, is pollution and waste. Industrial countries generate a major lion shares of world pollution and waste. Excuse me. Approximately two-thirds of the global industrial waste. Toxic waste are exported from industrialist countries to low-income countries as such. Major environmental issues, the race between technology and resource depletion. Now, this is what is a major concern in the present scenario. Economic growth is associated with productivity gains from being able to produce goods and services with progressively cheaper resources, as the case might seem. When wood and whale oil became scarce, they were replaced by fossil fuels. Absolutely, yes. Technological optimists believe that human will always be able to come up with some sort of solution, some sort of alternatives for resource scarcity. We are talking about renewable energies, solar energy being one, wind energy being another. Probably we are looking at lithium ion batteries per se. But let us be factual. Does substitute exist for every resources? Probably not. Exact replacement? Absolutely not. Are some resources more essential than others? There is no substitute for potable water, for example. Probably yes. This, in fact, water is equivalent to life. Even renewables might be exhaustible. Did I quote the example of a fish? Fish was supposed to be a non-exhaustible resources. Yeah, it's mentioned out here. Fish are renewable, probably a reproducible resources. Is coming counting the number of days because of overfishing. So, but renewable is nowadays not equal to inexhaustible. They are exhaustible, it seems, if we are not behaving responsibly, if we are not adopting sustainable practices. Probably things are going to go wrong. Many deep sea fish are seriously depleted. Technological changes has contributed to the decline of larger boats, drift nets, sonar technology for finding fish. This is what we are looking for. Let us visit climate change. What do we mean by climate change per se? You know, there is a lot of emission of CHCs, CFCs, chlorofluorocarbons. Now, these are greenhouse gases emissions, and the global temperature is rising. Emission of various greenhouse gas traps heat near the Earth's surface, leading to general warming trends, sea level rise, ecological disruptions, increase in severe weather events, hurricanes, flood, thoughts. Now, this is a classic display of what exactly is happening with the global temperature, and this is just approximately 2000 years, sorry, 200 years of projection that has been there. 100 years back and 100, or should I say 120 years back and 80 years in future, we are trying to predict something that is happening around it. And look at high differentiation, which exactly comes around it. See, it was the temperature was rising slowly, and in fact, there was a very little or minimalistic rise. But post 1980s, it shoots up. It shoots up, and this is the optimistic view. This is the pessimistic view that comes around it. It quadruples. It probably multiplies 10 times, 100 times perhaps. So global average temperature is predicted to be between 3 and 7 degree Fahrenheit warmers in 2100 2100 compared to the pre-industrial levels. So cost of this climate change, cost of this increasing temperature, what does it happen? What does it mean for mankind? Cost of climate change in 21st century base approximately 5 to 20% of the global gross domestic product. Most severe effective climate changes could be avoided at the cost of approximately 1% of the GDPs. Most dangerous impact of climate change are not likely to occur for several decades or more. The action taken in the next few decades will almost surely have a profound effect on those ultimate impacts, as the case might be. Climate change is likely to be exacerbated. Global inequalities, there would be more rich, more gap between more rich and more poor. So people will be living at the fringe ends and impede economic development in poorer countries. National and global response to climate challenges. Modern environmental problems requires a coordinated international response. Like, for example, the Kyoto Protocol, wonderful things that happened in Kyoto. But how many of us are actually adhering to the Kyoto Protocols, the emission norms that we have said about it, committed to industrialized countries to reduce their greenhouse emissions by an average of 5% below the 1990s levels by the period of 2008 and 12? This has not been adhered to. Drafted in 1997, ratified in 2005, Paris Agreement was way back in 2015. If we say each country is supposed to set its own goal for reduction in greenhouse gases emission per se, treaty does not include any mechanism to actually enforce the commitment thereby. It was a free rein effort that was given. It was mostly of a sensitization. The information was percolated to each and every participating country and thereby invigorating them, or should I say, motivating them to set up a lofty goals per se. The cost of responding versus the cost of inaction. We see a large scale employees energy transitions away from fossil fuels have significant cost, but modest on a macroeconomic scale. Costs should be balanced against growing costs that are likely to be caused by climate changes, damage from extreme weather events, agricultural output losses, possible effects of famine, armed conflict, and mass migration, as the case might be. The question remains, what kind of policies are required to promote ecological sustainability? What makes our effort green? What can we do so that there is a minimalistic impact on our planet per se? How can these policies be designed so that they can maintain our well-being, our lifestyle, our living standard, and promote human development, especially in developing countries? The question is all about sustainable growth. A contradiction in terms, absolutely yes. Is growth possible or is sustainability possible? No system can grow without limit. Absolutely true. There is nothing in standard macroeconomic to guarantee that economic growth will be either equitable or environmentally benign. Benign means fruitful. Specific policies for sustainable development are needed. Let us come up and give some suggestions for the policymakers or for the governments or for the general public. What can we do? For example, we can levy taxes. Taxes, it seems it has been studied, actually are very big incentive for behavior of peoples to change, and this has been already been proven around it. So make it more expensive to undertake activities that deplete important natural resource or contribute to the environmental degradation, as the case might be. So make it expensive. Make them responsible. In fact, people should be planting trees, putting up lakes, helping other flora and fauna to survive. Discourage energy, material intensive economic activities while favoring the provisions of services and labor intensive industries. Green taxes as a mean of internalizing negative externalities such as pollution per se. There might be a lot of objections to green taxes. Definitely, yes. Green taxes fall disproportionately on a lower income household. When I say lower income household, probably uh, this is where the developing countries, the industrial countries, the first world country and the third world country. The third world country is trying to shake up from its poverty. In the process, if you are levying taxes, because they might be utilizing a technology which be little bit backdated, or because they would be looking into economic activities, there would be a lot of pollution. So if you are taxing your poorer countries or third world countries, they remain poorer. They will not be able to advance into the better lifestyle. So green taxes are politically unpopular, definitely yes. Eliminating subsidies, the other alternatives that we can go around is that any subsidies, if any government is giving anything that has been provided, should be withdrawn. Agriculture, energy subsidies that encourages the overuse of energy, fertilizer, pesticides, and irrigation of water should be reduced or probably even eliminated. This would improve government finances. Absolutely well said. Money saved could be used. It actually means there would be a lower taxes, promotes more sustainability, agricultural resources, agricultural system, recycling and renewable energy. This is one of the alternative that can be suggested. It's all about recycling or utilization of renewable energies. Promote greater recycling of material, be it your laptops, be it your anything, even your clothes, even your bed sheet, even your sofa set, even your furnitures. Can we start recycling those materials? Use of renewable energies through policies such as deposit, refund system, target subsidies. Government can support expansion of energies from solar power to wind power to geothermal heat. If government can extend some sort of subsidies, help to the industry so that they can come up with solar power, wind, geothermal heat, then we can utilize something called tradable permits, wherein a country is emitting a number of greenhouse gases. Now, there are other countries which is actually not emitting such number of greenhouse gases equitable to their population. Now, can these two countries barter their contributions for each other so that it becomes an overall limit is not been exhausted? Set an overall limits on pollution all the way. Limited number of permits per se, allowing the emission of specific quantities and the types of pollutions. A process of pollution reduction may be the most effective achieved by allowing businesses to choose from finding low cost ways to reduce their emission and paying to buy permits. This is one of those things that needs to be taken into consideration. After permits are distributed to firms, they can then buy them from this or sell them to other firms as the case might be. So nudging towards sustainability, how do we go across this? Efficient transportation system can replace energy intensive automotive transport. That means high speed trains, public transit, greater use of bicycles, redesign of cities and suburbs to minimize transportation needs. Government needs to finance and probably conduct investment thereby. Now, we can also have something called feed-in tariffs. What is feed-in tariffs? It's used to promote construction of renewable energy supplies altogether. Absolutely. You are promoting renewable energies, promoting the technology, promoting the hardware, the software. Supplier of power from renewable energies gets the right to feed the electricity into the grid at a predetermined rate above the market rate for electricity. Absolutely. For whatever has been charged, higher than that, you should be charging it or giving it to the people who are contributing power through renewable energy sources, allowing renewable energies to be as competitive as possible, creating an incentive for installation of renewable energy capacities, debt for nature swaps, forgiving of debts of developing countries in exchange for agreements to protect nature, reserve for, or pursue environmental friendly policies. In 2002, probably US cancelled 5.5 million in debt owed to it by Peru in return for Peru agreements to conserve 10 rainforests covering more than 27.5 million acres. So let us look into sustainability and consumption. Replace the goal of ever increasing consumption with the goal of sufficiency. Now, this is something which needs to be understood by each one of us, probably whoever is going through this video. We all have clothes, for example, we all have amenities, which is more than that we require. Can we limit this increasing consumption spree that we are all obsessed with? Let us avail of the product the requirement once the existing product or the requirement has vanished or has been consumed to the fullest extent. So at an individual level, the amount of consumption that is sufficient to support human beings. At macro level, what kind of amounts of consumption can be sustained by humanity as a whole without destructive environmental consequences per se. Let me give you a table of global populations in 2013. If you look into the millions, global of lower income is 817, where global middle income is approximately 5,000. Uh, this is World Bank data, and global higher income is approximately 1100 something. Now, this is the population in millions. Absolutely, this is the population in millions, and you look into it. This is the middle level, which is of the bulk thing. For the poorer people, they are having approximately $571, whereas middle age income, the people would be having approximately $4,148, and the higher income, look at the differences, approximately $40,000. See the difference if you do it $400, $4,000, and $40,000. So see how it quadruple. Global lower income is only one tenth of the middle income, but this is approximately has leaped way out. It has become 10 times what we are actually looking into it. So each of these groups needs to be approaching the environment sustainably in a different objective, as has been given with the arrow that comes around it. It's to be talking about the lower income group. We're talking about improved materials, improved living standard, expanding option. This is what is happening with the lower income group. Probably something will happen similarly for middle income group and a higher income group per se. So, in a lower income group, is taking advantages of environmental friendly technologies and so on. Whereas in the middle income group, if you look into it, what is the sustainability quotient that comes around here is keeping an overall environmental impact per capita relatively stable. Pursue development paths that avoid a reliance on fossil fuels, disposable products, and ever increasing level of material consumption per se. There comes the higher income group. Probably find a way to reduce environmental impact per capita through technological improvements, intelligent design policies, and change in lifestyle aspiration. This is what beckons the environmental sustainability with different objectives for lower income group, for middle income group, and for the higher income group. Let me give you a figure which tells you about the consumption. See, based on the income, as the income increases, consumption increases. You see, country like United States would be splurging on the consumption, where countries like Europe, they would be not into more much of a consumption but more into leisure activities. They would love to move around, they would love to watch movies, they would love to simply make themselves happy, but not going forward with the consumption spree per se. So as income rises, people at in US, United States, would be consumer oriented with a little bit of a leisure things. But in Europe, you will see with a little bit of consumption, this much amount of consumption, but a lot of leisure activities that people are going to go around it. Now, this is the beauty of the possibilities frontier. The diagram, if I may elaborate it to you, illustrates the trade-off between consumption and leisure time. Europeans, on an average, live at a lower material standard than people in the United States because they do not work as many hours, hence earn less income. On the plus side, they enjoy more leisure time, which Americans sacrifice in order to able to consume more. Strategic investment that focuses on areas such as alternative energies, public transport, sustainable agriculture, education, health services could move countries towards more environmental sustainable economy. Are stabilization and sustainability in conflict? This is one of the questions that keeps bothering us. So what do we really want from employment? Is it the quality of employment, types of employment, or intensity of employment? Which is most important? People benefit from hours they spend away from the paid employment. Is it that the reason why we go for employment, so that we can have more leisure times, more time to ourselves, keep employment level high while reducing material energy throughput? What sort of and how much employment do we really want? Is it that all 12 months a year you should be gainfully employed, or is it somewhere around 10 months or 8 months that you should be gainfully employed, and rest of the month, be 2 or 4, you should pursue activities that interest you? So what do we really want from production? Let's say composition of output makes a very, very big differences. Shift towards producing goods, services that are environmentally beneficial could allow an economy to maintain consumption, investment, employment in a less environmental damaging way. Then comes the population stabilization, growing ratio of retirees to active workers. Demand increases for workers in medical and social services per se. We are talking about investment in energy saving infrastructure for transportation, in wetland restoration, as on when on basis, in conversation of residential, commercial building to more environmental friendly patterns of energy and chemical use. Look at what problem that we are facing when we are transiting from an existing lifestyle to a much more sustainable lifestyle, from existing macroeconomic factor to a sustainable macroeconomic factor. Transition requires changes of human and manufacture capital, conversion to the less resource intensive economy, in no matter if not but rather than when and how. You should say no matter when, but by what time and by how much we can go across with it. At a local level, sustainable development can also be developed from bottom up. Many changes in organization of modern human life that are central for a shift towards more sustainability can only be brought about in an initiative at a local level. Example, enable people to go to work, take their children to school, and do their shopping without the excessive use of cars. Residential and commercial areas need to be planned to be reached easily, and non-car transportation links such as bicycle lanes, trams needs to be provided more often than not. Macroeconomic policies for stabilizations, for sustainability, rather than growing indefinitely, nationally and globally, rather than not being a part of any rat race, we must follow the logistic pattern in which growth is limited, leading to a steady state economy. Environmental limits on growth apply to resources and energy consumption. Environmental neutral or friendly activities could continue to grow. Well, let me give you an idea about what has been happening in terms of time, which has been plotted on an axis, and activities, the economic activities, the resource driven activities on axis Y. And this is what is happening. If we are not looking at, if we are part of the rat race, we will always going up, keep on moving around it. Absolutely. And this is way we are going to go around. But if we are doing it responsibly and basis on the logistic care, you will see it will again stabilize. It will be into a steady state of economy that goes around it, instead of ever growing, ever increasing gross domestic product that comes around it. So what to take home as a conclusion thoughts? Macroeconomics needs to adapt to new realities. That's a fact of life. Economic analysis must take into account the need for technologies that can provide energy, material for human consumption in ways that are ecologically sound, that help to remedy past damages. Transitions to more sustainable economy will have an economic cost, but also significant benefits. Macroeconomic on the of the 21st century would be must be truly global. With this thoughts, I wind up this particular presentation. Thank you for watching this video till the very end.